The Dallas Cowboys will check back in with Jane Slater, but we are getting underway. There he is, Devin Bush. That is who the defense is excited about here at Steelers camp. We are checking in on practice when we come back.
Inside Training Camp Live is presented by State Farm. Go with the one that's here to help life go right. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM.
Thank you so much.
We have a doubleheader for you starting on Thursday. It is in action against the Bucs on Friday and Saturday. An age-old rival in Pennsylvania. That's where the Cowboys and the 49ers at 9 o'clock Eastern. Can't wait. Football is back, and there is no place that loves football more than Western Pennsylvania. That's where we are. Welcome back to Inside Training Camp Live at 9 o'clock Eastern. Can't wait. Football is back, and there is no place that loves football more than Western Pennsylvania. That's where we are. Welcome back to Inside Training Camp Live, presented by State Farm. Amber Theo Harris, along with Michael Irvin and Judy Batista. Practice getting underway right now. This has been the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers since 1967. About an hour outside of Pittsburgh, and all the fans travel out here to see the practice. But, Judy, I know you had a chance to talk to Kevin Colbert about that man right there.
Gushing is the word I would use to describe. They love Devin Bush. They love everything about him. They love his physicality. They love his sideline-to-sideline speed. They love his brain. He is calling the defense. The veteran players will tell you,
wow,
they're not helping him that much call the defense. He is calling the defense. Ryan Shazier, the player whose job he's taking, has been a big help. He said, from the moment he was drafted, Shazier said, "I'm here for you. I'll help you do anything." He said Shazier's helping him on the field, in the film room, telling him what to look for, how to react. They think Devin Bush is the key. They expect their defense to take a big, big step up from last year. Last year was really disappointing, especially at the end of the season. They produced very few turnovers last year. That's a real point of emphasis. It's hard to believe that they're worried about the defense in Pittsburgh. Those great Pittsburgh teams were all built.
Long time since the Steel Curtain, Judy. It's a long time ago.
Long time ago. They need to get back to it, and they think that this guy, Devin Bush, is the guy to do it.
And let's speak to this, too, because the truth of the matter is the defense has not been right since Ryan Shazier left this defense. And they've been looking ever since he's left to replace him or find someone that can try to fill those shoes, and those are huge shoes to fill. So having this kid, and I watched this kid is a beast. I mean, he was a beast in college, man. And to have Shazier here to give him those little bit of insights, because there are some things that he'll see, and there's some things that you'll say, oh, he was able to read that in college, he looked at it in college. But at this level, there's a little more things that they'll sit in, a little more nuance to the game, a little more nuances to the game. And Ryan Shazier can show him that and help him with those things. That's an incredible get for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that makes a huge difference for this football team. Because that defense was a pretty good spot. It was just that position right there that they kept attacking.
The Steelers' defense has allowed 6 points more a game since they lost Ryan Shazier in 2017 to that injury.
In the NFL, Amber, that's huge.
That's huge. So many games are within a field goal.
Right,
and then
field goal.
Devin Bush, he's a little, I wouldn't say undersized, but he's not a typical inside backer size. He's 5'11", 234 pounds. But it's his athleticism that they like here. And if you look around the AFC North, they're going to be facing some of the most fast RPO running quarterback type of offenses with Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. That's going to be a fast offense. And then the Ravens
Baltimore
out of Baltimore, they're going to need.
You can't put them on the same level now. If you're going to call Cleveland fast, you got to come up with another name for Baltimore. That's the difference. Cleveland will be fast, Baltimore will be warp. Warp speed.
Speedy Gonzalez.
It's a difference there. Even though both are fast, there's a variation in the speed.
Still, it's going to be a different kind of athletic defense needed to stop those kind of offenses. And there is Ben Roethlisberger. This is a whole different year for Ben. He doesn't have Antonio Brown. It was very public, the spat back and forth, whether it was on Twitter or the radio or to reporters. It led to Antonio wanting to be traded. He did get traded. Ben Roethlisberger, it's his team now, and we've we've heard other players like James Conner say, hey, he seems like he's happy. He seems like he's in a better mood. He seems loose. So I guess that's good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, whether not having AB on the field is good for the Pittsburgh Steelers is yet to be seen.
There's no drama here. I mean, just being here for the last 2 days, there's just no drama. It's quiet, and I think Ben likes it that way. Certainly Mike Tomlin likes it that way.
But they made magic, Judy. Him and AB were two of the best, the receiver quarterback duos just in the league. And Irv, you know, I mean, you had Aikman. You know how long it takes to develop that kind of relationship and then to try to rebuild it with someone else, which is what Ben is trying to do with Dante Moncrief. And also Ryan Switzer is getting some noise, more of a slot receiver here.
Yeah, but he's already built that relationship with Juju Smith-Schuster. And the way that marriage came about and all of the foreplay and everything that it had is why one of the reasons that AB wanted out. He saw that he had already lost his lover to Juju Smith. And he was ready to leave and go somewhere else. When Ben came out and said, I wish I would have thrown all 4 passes to Juju when the game was on the line, yeah, you done lost your lover, buddy. It's okay.
But who makes up those 100 receptions and 15 touchdowns?
Now, finding that is going to be very difficult. And I'm telling you, I know this guy didn't have a great rookie year, but I love James Washington. I love what I saw when I watched him at the Combine. I love what I saw when I watched him on film. I know he had a tough rookie season, but I think that's he can overcome that.
He had a lot of drops last year.
A lot of drops.
He caught about 50% of his targets last year, and that was a concern. His hands were a concern.
Right. But let's remember this now. Let's remember this. And in order to have those drops, that also says he did get open. He did get open. So catching the pass, we can work on. So I got somebody that knows how to get open because I threw him the ball. Maybe he didn't make the plays because of everything else that went on around him. But we can work on those things, and he can work on those things. And I think he'll show everybody this year that he's much better. But the other thing I worry about is Juju handling the double teams now. Before, he just got what was left. Now you're going to get what's their best. And there's a difference between getting what's defense's best and what is left.
Exactly. Last year, Juju led the team in receiving yards because AB was full. Now, when Juju's full, can he find a way to eat? Because who's going to be the number 2 that really scares defenses that they feel like they have to draw the double team off of Juju?
Yeah, and guys, let me tell you something. And I had this conversation with Alvin Harper when he got ready to leave. I loved Alvin Harper. I wanted to play my whole career with him. You know, we were such a great pair together, and he was such a phenomenal player. And I said, Hart, you know, and I'll just do simple numbers. I said, why go and become the number 1 receiver for $2 million a year, and why not stay here and let's work together, and you can make $1.5 million for the next 10 years without the pressure. Without the pressure of it. And of course, Hart, and you can't fault him, went. He wanted to take the money, took the money, but he didn't have the success that he thought he would have. Because once you become a number 1 receiver, it's more that comes with that than, oh, yeah, you got to catch more balls. The pressure comes with it. And now you have to set the tone for the room each and every week. So I don't care how you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel. You got to come on the field and set the tone, and that's pressure on the number 1 receiver.
Can Juju do that? I mean, Juju is young.
Oh, yeah.
He's had a terrific camp.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell y'all
you're doing
now.
the Juju dance.
Let me tell y'all now. That's my dude right there now. I'll say
wish you could see him doing this.
I'll say this to y'all. I promise you. Juju, out of all the guys, and I've gone to many drafts, I've done many combines, he was the one guy that I was going to Jerry and said, man, you got to get him. You got to get him. I talked about that the whole while. I said, man, you got to get him. I saw it. I had him. We were doing game changes at the time, and I had him come out. He's working. I worked out with him. I was like, man, you got to get him. This would be a perfect guy because we had Dez at the time. I said, this is a perfect guy to be a number 2 that will ultimately work into the number 1 position. I talked about that when he was coming out all the time. So this was prophetic in seeing it happen now that it is happening.
Prophecy.
Now, you know, that he is becoming the number 1. And I think he'll step right in those shoes and do a great job doing it.
But you didn't expect him to do it with the Steelers. You wished it was with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys.
I ultimately hope that that's what the case. But once he got here, I understood what the situation was. And they obviously understood what they had because that's when things started getting a little sour with AB.
And the Steelers offense out there stretching, getting ready for practice as we are live in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers for training camp. And another receiver that is getting a lot of mentions is Deontay Johnson, their third-round pick out of Toledo. Some people putting him ahead of James Washington, even though he's very young, a rookie. He's getting a lot of looks as well. So the receiving core is going to look different this year. But one thing that's interesting about Le'Veon Bell, by him not signing the franchise tender, they were able to take $14 million and roll that into cap space this year. They would have only had $4 million in cap space otherwise. So they had roughly about $18 million coming into this year. And they were able to go out there and get other players to upgrade that defense. And Steven Nelson was one of them that they got from Kansas City. And as you said, Judy, when you spoke to Kevin Colbert, they were excited about Devin Bush, but they were worried about the secondary coming out of last year because of a lack of turnover. So getting Nelson was a big deal, and that you can trace that back to Lev Bell.
Very few interceptions last year, historic low for the Steelers franchise. We might see it out here that they have the coaches, the DB coaches are working with the DBs on the jugs machine to catch the ball.
And I've always said this. When you want to win, and people, defense win championship. No. Turnover defenses and scoring defense. A team that gets the turnover and score with that turnover, that's what wins championships. And I understand Pittsburgh's trying to work on getting more turnovers.
All right, we're going to talk more about the turnovers and the defense when we come back. More live from Steelers practice in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Can the Steelers return to glory in the AFC North? That's next. Inside Training Camp Live rolls on from Latrobe, Pennsylvania, where the Pittsburgh Steelers practice is underway. And this was a team that passed on 67% of its plays last year. They lost Le'Veon Bell. That was a huge blow to the offense, but they did have James Conner, a man that's expected to be the lead back this year. And this running back core, I guess you could say, it's going to be running back by committee, because the worst secret kept, Judy, was from Ben Roethlisberger when he admitted that they're going to use 2 running back sets.
Yes, he said it, and I think it was a serious radio interview. People had seen it who are able to watch practice every day, and then he just blurted it out. Yeah, we're going to use a lot of 2-back. Okay, Ben. But they have a pretty good running back group here. James Conner had a terrific season last year before he got hurt.
Terrific.
Jalen Samuels looks pretty good and has pretty good hands. And then they got the rookie Benny Snell, who they love. He's been really tantalizing here in camp. Bruising running back. Ben likes to throw him the ball. He's got some hands, too.
Well, Benny didn't catch passes at Kentucky, so
he just didn't do that. But Ben says he likes to throw these guys like bad passes to see if they can handle them. He's handled them. They feel really good about their running backs here.
I tell you, James Conner, I thought, had a great year last year. And Pittsburgh, it's always been the Steelers' way to run the football and play great defense. Ben himself is changing this narrative. I really believe that's what happened with Todd Haley. Ben wanted, that's why Todd had to go, because Ben wanted to take over running and throwing the ball and do it when he wants to do it, not when any other offensive coordinator tells him to do it. But the Steelers, in order to have the success I know Ben wants to have, I know the Steelers want to have, it has to start with that running game, and you add Ben Roethlisberger. Don't have Ben Roethlisberger being the catalyst of this offense, and we hope to run. You run the football, and you add the pass.
We should make the point here that James Conner looks like is not going to practice today. They have been giving him very limited reps. Not a problem with James Conner. They want to give the young guys some time. This is him.
Yeah, that's him in the bucket hat.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry, in the doing
right,
squats
with the
right
towel
there.
around his neck with the hat on. They want to give as many reps to the young guys as they can. So
James Conner, if I'm James Conner, I got my hand raised. Like, wait a minute, Coach, I am a young guy.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Well, you want to give as many reps to a young guy? I am a young guy.
Yeah, this is just his third year in the league. It's not as if he's an experienced vet that needs to sit out of camp because he might get exhausted here in the heat. But they do want to get a look.
He had a great time. He had a great year last year, but here's the kicker. He didn't get through the whole year without injury, and he played the whole year up under, well, we're waiting on Le'Veon Bell. We're waiting on Le'Veon Bell. Now, it's his first year as the catalyst of that backfield. I want to give him every opportunity to be exactly what Le'Veon Bell was to this football team, the bell cow, and add these other pieces to it. I'm not going to set down my bell cow for these other pieces.
And you have to remember, he was a Pro Bowl running back last year. He was on fire weeks 1 through 9. He was in the top 5 in most running categories, rushing categories. Then he had that foot injury, and he missed a couple of games, about 3 games in a row. And then that kind of coincided with when the Steelers just started to fall apart.
That's what I'm telling you.
In December,
exactly.
Where they lost, they won 2 of their last 4 games.
Well, they were throwing the ball more than anybody in the league.
Right.
And
they were 2-4 in the last 6 games.
Exactly.
So with the season and the balance, things fell apart.
And the numbers show that when James Conner gets 20 touches or more, this team last year was 5-0-1. He had a lot of scrimmage yards last year, 113 yards per game. So he's versatile. He's not just a rusher. He's a guy that can catch the football as well. So this running back core
Great
is
job, Amber, what you
interesting.
just did. You know, I said that, and then you just gave the numbers to back up what I said as a host. Amber, that's perfect. That's a great job. I just want to give you some kudos right here on air, right here, and also tell Judy's husband, Anthony, thank you for the compliment. You know, we were talking about our
Judy's
spouse.
husband, Anthony. He loves Playmaker.
I appreciate you, buddy. Keep watching.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
We all might be veterans out here, but we don't take snaps off. We don't take snaps off during training camp. It's like we're rookies all over again, out here grinding. But Benny Snell, there was a funny story. So they were doing the back-on-backers drills out here, and Benny Snell got his number called alongside of Devin Bush. Oh. Devin Bush dog-walked him. It was amazing. We saw that boy's cleats up in the air. So it was a welcome to the NFL moment, but by another rookie, Devin Bush. But you're going to have to block, Benny, and if you're going to be that bruiser back that you have the reputation for, he got a quick lesson there as far as the backs are concerned. Now, Jalen Samuels, he's going to be used, and this is an interesting point because the tight end situation is a little vacant here. Of course, they have Vance McDonald. They have Vance McDonald, who's great. And we know that he's going to get the ball, and he could make up for Antonio Brown's catches, some of them. You could maybe divvy some out to him. But behind McDonald, there really isn't anybody that's stepping up and grabbing the number 2 spot as far as tight ends are concerned. Xavier Gamble really isn't making any waves out here, isn't making a splash as far as Mike Tomlin is concerned. So who's going to be the other tight end to throw to as we're looking at some quarterback drills out here? And so Jalen Samuels, who is a running back, but he's going to possibly be hybrid. He could be used maybe because we know Fickner likes 2 tight end sets, and it's hard when you have an offensive coordinator that used 2 tight end sets with Jesse James last year alongside of McDonald, and then all of a sudden one is gone. What do you do? Or
let me just tell you what I spoke to somebody at the Steelers the other day about who makes up for Antonio Brown's 100 catches, and he said, we don't know yet. He said, but Ben is not going to throw 100 fewer receptions. Juju is not going to catch 100 more passes by himself.
Gotta go somewhere.
It's going to have to go somewhere. It's going to have to be spread around. Maybe it's a little Dante Moncrief, assuming the finger that he injured heals and he can get back out there. Maybe it's Ryan Switzer. Maybe you get a little bit by committee. But the running backs could make up an awful lot.
And that's what I'm saying, dude. I mean, okay, maybe you don't throw 100 fewer receptions or passes, but can you throw 50 through fewer? And now all we need to do is let's use the running game a little bit more and find somebody that can make up for 50 of those Antonio Brown receptions. And the other 50 we kind of use with the running game and control the clock and control the football, control the defense of the opponents. That's what I think this team has to do. Now remember, they finished top of the heap in passing last year. Top of the heat,
but they threw it more than anybody.
Right, but not in
the
playoffs. But not in the playoffs. When you're throwing the ball that much, you're not going to end up in the playoff. You have to add this passing game to a stellar running game.
That was number 17, Eli Rogers. We've got to mention him. He's also in the mix. And we have to be fair to Dante Moncrief as he is kind of getting this rhythm with Ben Roethlisberger. Some people are expecting him to have a breakout year, and that's funny to say that in your 6th year in the league. Right. He was with the Colts for a long time. He didn't have Andrew Luck healthy for a lot of the time he was there. And then last year, he had Blake Bortles throwing to him in Jacksonville, so take what you want from that. But to have Ben Roethlisberger throwing to him, exactly.
They thought that he and Ben developed a good chemistry during the off-season workouts. Now, he's had a bit of a finger injury here, so he's been held out of quite a few training camp practices. That's obviously not ideal, but they feel pretty good that he and Ben are going to be on the same page when he gets back on the field, and that he will be able to take some of those receptions and maybe be able to take a little bit of the pressure off Juju.
Yeah, the measuring stick I usually use when you get guys that have been in the league a while but hadn't had great success and expect to have better success in the new place that they are in. It depends on like where they're going. You know, Dante Moncrief. So that means if I'm in an offense that is man beating man, that means I have to beat the cornerback, or I have to beat whoever's over me, the safety, if safety's over me. I have to beat the position. Or did I leave that offense and go to an offense where it's scheme beating scheme? Like, you know, like with the Rams, there's so much going on. This is scheme beating scheme. So a guy that's not very good at man beating man can have great success and have a real uptick if he goes to a scheme where it's scheme beating scheme. But Pittsburgh is about man beating man. That's why I'm talking about they come down the hill. They are not throwing all this exotic stuff at you that Kansas City is going to throw with Andy Reid or Sean McVay is going to throw with the Rams. They are going to tell you, go beat your man. And that usually doesn't translate if you were in a man-beating-man place, all of a sudden coming to another place and putting up incredible numbers that you've never put up before. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it usually doesn't translate.
Well,
man, that's just good stuff.
Spoken from a Hall of Famer, but under Tomlin, there has been this next man up mentality when it comes to receivers in his 13 years here. If you go back to 2010, remember Santonio Holmes?
Yeah.
He was traded, and who stepped up? A young second-year receiver named Mike Wallace. Who
then was gone.
The year after having 1,200 receiving yards. He leaves in 2013, and who steps up? A young receiver by the name of Antonio Brown, who had nearly 1,500 receiving yards.
Right.
The year after Mike Wallace left. And so now that AB is gone in 2019, will it be Juju? Could it be Dante? We don't know. But there's something about
James
under
Washington.
Mike.
You think
maybe
it's
James Washington.
And I think James Washington do well. But let's give credit where credit is due here. And what you just read off, it just speaks to the great job that these guys do at developing young talent. And once they develop that young talent, they kind of sometimes let the talent they had say, okay, we've already developed the young guy. We can get him at a cheaper price. We let you go, and that helps our cap situation. So that's why I know with a guy like James Washington, the kind of talent this guy has, and maybe with the Dante Moncrief, that they will step up more under this situation, under this scheme, because Mike Tomlin has done a great job at bringing guys in and developing these young receivers.
What do you think about Ryan Switzer, who I think Ben would like to be sort of a Julian Edelman type of guy?
Yeah, and remember now, Ryan started off in Dallas over there, so we saw some things. I mean, phenomenal talent in the slot. Phenomenal talent in the slot. But what makes a slot receiver very, very potent in your offense is when you have the timing type offense. That's why a slot receiver in New England like Julian Edelman plays incredible football, and every other slot receiver wants to emulate him. But you're not in that type of offense. This team, New England, plays the game inside out. Tom Brady's been playing this long because he's not killing his arm throwing all of those outside routes. He's throwing the tight ends, Gronk. He's throwing the Julian Edelman. Before that, Wes Welker. All of those guys inside out. Pittsburgh has played the ball game outside in. They haven't had slot receivers that make a lot of plays. They've thrown that ball to the outside. So let's see if they're willing to adjust some of the things they do to make Ryan Switzer have a great year.
Switzer built just like Edelman, 5'8", 185 pounds, but as you said, different offense. We're going to talk more about this offense. We're going to hear